The leaders of the United States and China have spoken positively about their first face-to-face meeting in a year. Joe Biden described the 4 hours of talks in San Francisco as their most productive and constructive yet. Xi Jinping said Beijing was ready to be a friend and partner to Washington. The White House said these conversations were candid and constructive, with an agreement secured to resume military communications. Mr. Biden also said both leaders agreed to establish a direct line of communication with one another. The two leaders aim to ease tensions on issues including Taiwan and the South China Sea.
China is willing to be a partner and friends with the United States. Our fundamental principles in handling Sino-US relations are mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. Whether China and the United States are ultimately rivals or partners is a fundamental and overarching question. The logic is very simple. If one views the other as the primary competitor, the most significant geopolitical challenge, and an ever-approaching threat, it will inevitably lead to erroneous policies, wrong actions, and erroneous outcomes.
I just concluded several hours of meetings with President Xi, and I believe they were some of the most constructive and productive discussions we've had. I've been meeting with President Xi since both of us were vice president over 10 years ago. Our meetings have always been candid and straightforward. We haven't always agreed, but they've been straightforward. And today, build on the groundwork we laid over the past several months of high-level diplomacy between our teams. We've made some important progress, I believe. And in the months ahead, we're going to continue to preserve and pursue high-level diplomacy at the PRC in both directions. Keep the lines of communication open, including between President Xi and me. He and I agreed that each one of us could pick up the phone, call directly, and would be heard immediately. And that's
Well, for more on the US-China talks, let's bring in Arise US correspondent Eric Ham, who joins me live from Washington. Good to see you, Eric. So the leaders of the world's two biggest economies have met to try to improve their relationship. And you could say that the meeting appeared cordial, couldn't you? Certainly warmer than the one that took place a year ago in Bali. Is that the way you saw it?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we know not only were there a range of issues that were discussed, but we also have to, I think, address the issue of panda diplomacy. And we know coming out of that meeting, President Xi said that because the pandas were seen as so popular by the American people, that they want to send more pandas to the United States. And so I think what we saw here was a small gesture by President Xi to try to extend an olive branch to the United States. And I think that's something that will go over very, very well with the Biden administration.
So, I mean, what are the key takeaways from these talks between Mr. Biden and Mr. Xi?
Well, we know that there were a range of issues that were discussed, but some of the tangibles that came out of the meeting was the biggest, of course, was that President Xi actually committed to attempting to tamp down on fentanyl being sent to Latin American countries for the production of illegal drugs that are sent to the United States. That's going to put a massive dent in the drug cartels' business and their ability to move illegal drugs into the United States. And we also know that the Biden administration and the Xi administration also have agreed to allow for military face-to-face and military discussions to actually open back up again, which is seen as a massive improvement because, of course, we know the tensions in the South China Seas has been growing very, very high. And now to have those military-to-military discussions will allow for an opportunity to actually tamp down on those tensions. We also know the issue of Taiwan came up. President Biden was not willing to give an inch in that the United States is going to continue to send military arms to Taiwan. But what we heard from President Xi is that the Chinese have no ambitions to actually overtake or invade Taiwan. So a lot came out of the meeting that I think the Biden administration believes that this is now a starting point to help not only evolve relations, but also to see the two superpowers work more closely together.
And of course, that starting point, perhaps most importantly, they said this isn't the end of the talks, both sides confirming the importance of constructive communication.
Absolutely. And that has been something that President Biden has found invaluable for quite some time. The president continues to double down on what he believes is that there needs to be a person-to-person relationship. And he continues to speak glowingly of their relationship that began when they were both serving as vice president and now are seen as the leaders of the two largest economic superpowers in the world. But in addition to that, we know that the Biden administration has valued ongoing communications, irrespective of the tensions that continue to swirl around the two nations. And now, given the fact that this face-to-face actually took place exactly 1 year ago today, now the Biden administration wants to see those communications continue, not only from the top, but also begin to move from the bottom up as well.
And what reaction, Eric, has there been in Chinese circles to Mr. Biden's post-meeting description of Mr. Xi as a dictator? I mean, I think that was during his chat with reporters, and someone sort of lobbed that at him. I wonder if you've seen anything on it from China.
No, I have not, but we do know that the way this meeting has been communicated to Chinese audiences is that this was a thawing of relations, a thawing of tensions between the two, and also the jovialness of President Xi, which portends the idea that at least in Chinese circles, that this is important. And we have to remember, Charles, China has seen their economy not actually growing post-pandemic. And so they recognize the value of not only U.S.-based companies, but a U.S.-based consumer market to help bring their economy out of the doldrums, which has really hampered China's ability to actually move forward. And so I think what we are seeing here is both countries recognizing that they need each other in order to get back to a place where they can effectively do the types of business that they want.
Eric, thank you very much indeed. Eric Ham is Arise US correspondent. He was talking to me there from Washington.